I think it's safe to say there are no skiers on the team this morning, but hopefully we'll find out how that's pronounced later in the morning. In the meantime, let's turn our attention to the newspapers once again. Here with me this morning to review them are anthropologist Marianne Hotter and the broadcaster and writer Edward Adu. Welcome back to both of you. So Marianne, I was just chatting to our guest Simon Calder a short while ago about the delays at Dover just before the break, and this obviously getting a lot of attention in the papers as well. These nightmare waits to cross the Channel. The Sun's got it here. April Schools Day, they say.
It's a sort of perennial favourite, isn't it? The start of every holiday that there's going to be chaos on the roads, but this time around, I think over the past few months, because of strike action, because of increased kind of severe weather events, it's moved from being, that kind of light-hearted, Brits complain about going on holiday, Brits complain about coming back on holiday, they complain when it's sunny, they complain when it's raining. This is actually terrible. I mean, I was listening to the school teacher talking about how resilient her kids who have been trapped on a coach for hours on end without food, they've run out of water, how they are just one coach of hundreds. And of course, the ferry companies, the kind of the tour operators, there's a limit to how much they can do when the threats are external to them. So the French border control, the bad weather, the simple volume of traffic. But I think we need to factor into our systems these external shocks, because they are going to be more and more frequent. And it has huge economic impact on our economy. It has huge impact on people's quality of life. I mean, certainly for me, we had the conversation, should we think about going away? Well, with the strikes, with all the uncertainty, let's not bother. And I think that's probably a conversation that was replicated up and down the country in preparation for Easter, but also I think looking towards the summer as well. Yeah,
you just want your holiday to be about relaxation, don't you, and not grief and hassle. Let's move on, shall we, Edward, to the Observer next. There's an article here about homelessness, and there is a big push, isn't there, by Rishi Sunak to try to take beggars off the streets, basically. So what's this article saying?
It's to try and help. When the term beggars, I try kind of use a different term, because I think, listen, everybody should be treated the same. And it's about the Vagrancy Act, which has been around for 200 years. And I was shocked to note that, some homeless people have been arrested simply for being homeless and been sleeping outside shop doors. So this is about rejigging the actual plan. It's been it's been planned to be rejigged for quite some time. It hasn't happened. The Prime Minister wants to try and tackle this. The homeless charity crisis says what the government are proposing, what Rishi Sunak has said is councils can actually move homeless people. They can move homeless people on. Labour have also said that they will try and tackle this and kind of deeming it as like anti-social behaviour. The issue here is homeless people. They haven't got anywhere to go. Firstly, they shouldn't be arrested, shouldn't be fined. It's about trying to tackle it. And I think from both the government and Labour, by kind of saying, well, look, we're going to move people on, it's not actually tackling the issue of homelessness. It's kind of just pushing it aside and saying, well, look, if we do see somebody, we're just going to move them on. But I suppose what charities would say is there needs to be funding, there needs to be infrastructure in place in order to try and tackle this and to get people off the streets, because it could happen to anybody. You could lose your job, obviously with the cost of living crisis. At any moment, something can happen, something can trigger it, and you can find yourself homeless.
Yeah, so there's got to be somewhere to move them on to, is the point you're making, yeah.
Or Anna, that's my idea. Why don't we prevent it in the first place? Why don't we have systems in place and funding such that people don't find themselves in such dire straits that they're living on the street? I mean, how many safety nets has a person fallen through before they find themselves sleeping in the doorway of Sainsbury's and someone having or feeling like they ought to call the police? That's not what
to be criminalised as well.
For. Yeah, exactly. That's not what police officers are for, and that's not how people should be living in 2023 in a country like the UK. The one thing I have to say, Tony Blair is very unfashionable these days for many understandable reasons, but under his government, street homelessness fell to basically zero, and that was because of targeted campaigns, government departments working together, and a hell of a lot of money being invested, because it was seen as an issue that needed to be tackled, and we're going to tackle it, and we're going to get rid of we're going to end street sleeping, and they actually did it. I mean, the truth is, spend money, invest where it's needed, and there is so much expertise in the sector. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. The expertise is there. It just needs to be listened to and then responded to. So if Rishi Sunak actually cares, he'd put the money where it needs to be placed and actually save people's lives. And those people then become economic powerhouses in our society, in our economy. These aren't.
Okay.
And it'll be interesting to find out whether the actual plan, whether it will be rejigged, because they've said they've been trying to do this for at least 2 years now, and we're still talking about it. So, I think with what Mary's saying there, it's about taking action. It has to happen in order to help homeless people, and for them to stop being criminalised.
Well, we're out of time, but we'll leave it on that note of agreement at least. Lovely to see you both this morning.